Okay, here we go. Arabesque from the album 25 Progressive Pieces, Opus 100 from F.Burgmüller. So this is an album that all piano students have to go through. This is a very popular piece, and we will organize first how to practice it. So let's start with the first section. So we start with this chord. I would skip those two first measures for now. Let's start on the third measure because that's the same chord. So the first step here is to figure out the chords you have for left hand. So we have this one for two measures, starting on measure 3, and then we have this, and then we have this. So let's practice the first 4 measures, starting, of course, on measure number 3. That's all. Again. So what is important here? It's important to keep always the same articulation or staccato. You can use a little bit of your wrist bouncing, and it's very important to don't move too much when you do staccato. The fingers are always on the keys. Okay, now, since we learned this left hand, we are able to learn the right hand. And the right hand always have this same movement. So what is important here? It's important first, make sure you're doing the correct rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and it's important to land staccato. The last note is always staccato. So the articulation is what makes this piece interesting. So another thing is we don't want to play the first note too strong, like this is not very musical. So what I do is I target the last note. This is the one I'm targeting. And I try to do a little bit of this movement, the wrist movement. So the first note I'm almost play as I was patting the keys like this. This way, it's easier to my brain to translate in the motion what I want from the sound. Okay, so then we can put that together. I recommend doing only the first measure a couple of times. Now we can do the next. There's a different chord here. Okay, good. Now we can play the 4 measures in a row. Great. So, for the next section, 4 more measures, we'll have a contrast in the harmony, because in the beginning we had only minor chords. We had A minor and D minor. Now the next section starts with a C major chord. Of course it's inverted, but it's a C major. Then we have a G7 chord for 2 measures, and then we go back to C major. So only the left hand will sound like this. Okay, so one more time, counting. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. And then we have a different ending, which is okay, so now the right hand. What is the trickiest thing here? It's, I think, the rhythm, because we start offbeat. So the first thing is to learn how to do offbeats. If you have never done that before, it's important to practice this first. So the counting here, it's gonna be 1 and 2 and 1. But first, let's see what is an offbeat. Let's say my beat is this. Offbeat is when I do the ends, for example, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and, or 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. In this case, we only gonna have this kind of attack for these first two measures in the first measure. So it's gonna be 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and, one more time, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. So about the fingering, most of the editions they suggest doing this with finger 3 and then legato starting with finger 2, landing in finger 1. It's very important to pay attention to the articulation here. We have 1 staccato and then 3 notes legato landing on in staccato. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. Great. Now, let's do the next phrase. The next phrase actually starts, it's good to start in the second beat of measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Measure 8. So we're gonna start in the second beat. So it's gonna be 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and, one more time, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. So before we put it together, I recommend you to do this exercise because that will be very necessary. Doing this. One more time. Because we have this. So what is the challenge here? The first one goes together and they are both short. Then the second one, I have to hold right hand while I play staccato here. So this is a very good exercise to learn how to do that. Okay, now I will play this counting. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. One more time. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. And then the ending. The whole phrase now. The whole phrase counting. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. And now I will do the phrase again with the second final. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. So it's important doing staccato here. Great. So the first section will sound like this. I will not play the intro, so. Now I will play again with the second ending. Now, let's see the section B that starts like this. Okay, here it's important learning the left hand first. And the left hand will have the same movement we had for the first part. Of course, different notes. We start here with this G sharp. It's important doing finger 3. So, my advice is the same. Pay attention if you are doing the right articulation. Okay, so the first 4 measures, they are the same. So, then here we have a repetition of the model, but with different notes. I'm sorry. Okay. For the right hand, we have 1 and 2. Stop here. One more time. 1 and 2 and 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 both hands together. One more time. Counting 1 and 2 and 1. Okay, now we get to this part here where we have both hands going the same direction. Like, in general, the students have a hard time here, but if you follow my instructions, it will be very easy. So I recommend you learning first the left hand. It's gonna be we land in the chord. So you can also break that in parts, like first that. And it's very important having your finger 1 on F. So we have this turn. After G, we pass finger 1 here, and we have F with finger 1. And then after that is a descendant movement to D, and then we have D sharp, E, and then just go down step by step and land in the first chord. One more time. 1, 2, and 1, and 2, and 1, and 2, and 1. Great. For the right hand, we start finger 3 in the note F. So let's see how this phrase sounds. 1 and 2, and 1 and 2, and 1 and 2, and 1 and 2, and. So it's important to follow the fingering as well. So finger 3, finger 1 on D, and pass finger 3 on C. And then just 3 steps lower, and then G sharp, and you're gonna have finger 5 to play E. So the phrase sounds 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Now, when I put this together, it's important doing this. I recommend you first stopping here, so make sure you're doing the correct rhythm and the notes are going together. So, sorry. Or 1, 2, and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. After that, my left hand has to do the turn to finger 1 on F, as we learned. And that goes together with D finger 1 as well. So this is a landmark because we have both hands doing finger 1. This one is on F, this one is on D. So practice this passage many times until you get good at that. Okay, the next step here is doing. I recommend you doing pass finger 3 here and stop on this note, last note of that measure. One more time. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and now we can play these two measures together. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and one more time. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and now it's just finish. G sharp goes with E. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 together. 1. One more time. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. Great. The next 4 measures is just a repetition. We don't have to talk about it. Let's skip to the next new section. So here we're gonna have this. So it's very similar to this. So you just have to read the notes and put that together. The fingering here for the right hand is the same. Make sure you are doing the left hand staccato. We have a different ending, a second ending. So the second ending, it's gonna be. Okay? Now, another challenge is when we go from here, there's a kind of a big jump here, right? So, to do that jump, I recommend you to have a spot where you're gonna look while you're moving your hands. So, a good tip here is, we finish with this chord, then my right hand is here and it's gonna be here after that. Or in other words, I know that my hand is gonna move to the E here, right next to the higher note of this chord. And this hand will do octave lower. Now, when you're practicing this, you can do, for example, this. Stop in the note, but don't play. And then you can start doing like this. And play the first note. Now I played wrong, but play the first note. Then you're gonna be able to do. For this chord, I recommend you really knowing the notes. A and E, C and A minor. So the very ending. Counting. 1, 2. 1, 2. That's it. I hope this helped you to learn Arabesque. Thank you.